Hey, welcome back to the program. Football Friday continues. Darren DuPont with you here. And Joey Alfieri, the Montreal Alouettes, is joining us here in our preview of Friday Night Football, the Owls and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. You're in Regina? How are things, Joey?
Living the dream. Always enjoy coming here. It's been a while. We weren't here last year, so it's been a couple of years since we've been here. So always nice to be back.
What's your game day look like today? Take me through game day.
Some meetings, just finishing up some work, and then just get ready for the game, watch the game, take notes, make fun of people on social media, and then do a post-game show on all of our Montreal Alouettes social media platforms. As soon as it's over, we take off right away, and we touch down in Montreal about 6, 7 Eastern time on Saturday morning. So it really gets the weekend rolling.
Wow, does it ever? Are you a guy who can sleep on the plane?
Yeah, I can sleep on the plane. It's just that most of the time, you want to write that post-game article before you touch down, because the last thing I want to do is write it without having slept, on the plane and stuff. So
Yep.
I can sleep pretty much anywhere now. I think I got about an hour on the way here. But I've we have a baby now. We have a little guy, 11 months old. So I try to get some sleep whenever I can. So planes, trains, automobiles, wherever, if I can sleep, I can sleep.
Oh, that's good. Well, you got to be busy because there are 1,000,001 storylines going into this game tonight. And if it wasn't for Nathan Rourke, this would be a runaway for the game of the week this week. You got two teams, first place in each of their divisions, going head to head. You've got quarterbacks coming back. Now, are we certain that Cody Fardo's not going to start? And do you think there's any chance he's going to play at all tonight?
Hey man, it's pro football. I mean, there's always a chance. I think that this coaching staff has done a great job of getting whoever's at quarterback ready. I think you've seen it with whether it be Cody or whether it be Caleb or whether it be Davis Alexander. I mean, each guy has come in there at some point and played at a very, very high level. So would it shock me if Cody was able to play tonight? It wouldn't shock me at all. But would it shock me if they went with Davis Alexander? I don't think that would shock me either. So they've played well. They've won all 3 games with Fajardo on the sideline. I think that's the thing that's kind of gotten lost. And, you look around the league and how tough it is to win with your backup quarterback. I mean, since Jason Moss has been in Montreal, this is season 2 now. It's 5 games without Cody Fajardo. They're 5-0 with 2 different starting quarterbacks. So, I don't think it's the big deal internally that everyone out in Regina wants it to be about the return. And it's the first time Trevor Harris plays against the Alouettes since he left in free agency. I don't think they're all about that here. I don't think that's what they're talking about. But for media people who into storylines, I mean, it would be cool to see Fajardo take the field here. But I think Davis Alexander has played super well. So it wouldn't surprise me either way if he went wire to wire or if you saw a little bit of both.
What is it about this Montreal Alouettes team? Because, we go back to last year and the run they went on. You guys went on at the last half of the season and into the Grey Cup, and now 8-1 out of the gate. Best start for the Alouettes since 2004, when they went 12-1 to start the season. Like, we're talking about, Anthony Calvillo. We're talking about Ben Cahoon. We're talking about, an Alouettes franchise. Don Matthews has coached that team. Mark Trestman has coached that team. But it's Jason Moss, it's Cody Fajardo, it's Davis Alexander, and they're setting records. What is it about this team? We know the defense is good, but it's got to be more than that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the players are good, right? Like the talent that's been assembled here is good. There's no denying that Danny Machocha and his staff have done an unbelievable job. I mean, if, prior to the season, I would have asked you, Darren, I would have said, okay, tell me who you think is going to finish 1, 2, and 3 in receiving yards for the Alouettes. You probably would have told me Tyson Philpot, Keon Julian Grant, and Tyler Snead. All 3 guys are out going into this game. Snead and Julian Grant have been out for multiple weeks at the same time, and they found a way to get it done. There's different guys. Charleston Rambo has stepped up. You got Nate Bahar and Shedler Furbius that have played well. Cole Speaker, has been a constant. So I think that's just an example of the type of depth that they have. We already talked about the quarterback, but it's culture, man. I think outside of, if you're just looking at talent, it's the culture that the organization, from ownership on down through Jason Moss, have been able to build in that locker room. That's what's gotten them through some hard times. I know, on paper it's 8-1, but it's not like they haven't gone through adversity this year. There's been injury adversity. They've been trailing at halftime a couple times and they've come back to win. They've played games on short weeks and they've looked good for the most part. This is a team that doesn't make excuses. They bring their lunch pail to work. I won't even say every game. I get to watch every practice up close. They bring it every practice, and so I think that's a big reason. If you're looking outside of talent, because you obviously need talent, you need ability to perform at this high of a level. But it's the culture, it's the buy-in, it's the leadership from ownership to president to general manager to head coach that's just trickled through the veins of this organization, and that's how they got it done. I really think that culture is a really big part of it.
I would probably agree with you. I mean, it's hard to argue that things are pretty good right now, and the culture has to be at the top of that list. Look, with this Montreal team and Davis Alexander, what makes him, what has allowed him? Like, what is the characteristics that have allowed him to step in and be great? Like when he came in halfway through that game, I think it was in against Saskatchewan, right? And won that football game. That's great. There's no pressure there. You come off the bench. It's like, hey, kid, we just need you to go play football. You know what? If we win and we lose, but then he becomes the starter. And then there's that pressure to manage a game, to, really lead this team. And he handled that well, too. Like he's just checked off every box along the way. What makes him so special?
Yeah, look, I think first of all, he's a really smart guy. He's a smart guy who can process the offense. He's been around for 3 years in the Canadian Football League with the Alouettes. So, I think from the shoulders up, I mean, obviously he's a really strong brain. And then you look at the ability. I mean, there's an ability to scramble there. He has one of the strongest arms I've ever seen. I think for the quarterback position, he's undersized. I think he's about 6 feet, 6'1", but I mean, he's got a cannon for an arm. And he plays fearless. He doesn't play reckless. He plays fearless. And I think it's different because, you look at the game in Hamilton, first start on the road. That's a place that's not easy to play. Threw a pick six, which, there was, I don't know if that's on anybody. It's just a receiver slips and it gets picked off. And they find themselves down right at the start of the second quarter. They come back on a couple drives later, I think it was, and he's still airing the ball out, and he has a long completion in the end zone to Charleston Rambo. And, he's a guy who doesn't get rattled by the moment. He's a guy who can come in there and be consistent and play really well. And he's learned things along the way. This guy he's still just 25. He's only going to be 26 in October. And I think you see the whole package and you can get excited because he looks like that prototypical CFL quarterback that could have success for a very long time. So I've been really impressed with Davis Alexander. I've seen him practice for 3 years, so I'm not terribly surprised at the success that he's had. But he's a really tough kid. He's tough physically, tough mentally. And he can let it fly. He can let it rip. So I think, to those who maybe aren't familiar with this game, who haven't necessarily watched the last couple of weeks, I think you'll be impressed if you tune in tonight because he really is a special kid and he's got some special talent there.
Fun to watch. We won't see another player who's been fun to watch, Tyson Philpot. So it goes to the 6-game injured list. What do we know about Tyson and how long do we expect him to be sidelined?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's just week to week. Obviously, got hurt in the start of the Hamilton game last week. Looked like lower body, foot, ankle, whatever it was. I don't know what they're calling it. But we don't know. We don't have a ton of details. We just know that right now he's not going to be available for this game. But like I said, I mean, they've been down receivers before, and that's not even. They went out. They came out of the offseason. They lost their number one target, Austin Mack, to the NFL, and now two of their top 3 receivers went down fairly early in the season, and they found a way. I mean, this is a group that has depth, especially at that position. So it's tough to lose Tyson Philpot because for me, he's been top 3 receiver in the league this year. He's really been dynamic with the ball in his hands, makes guys miss, can be physical at times, that deep threat, and he's very, very consistent. So they're going to have to find a way to overcome that loss, and it's not going to be easy. It's just that they've had guys step up there. So credit to the guys that are behind the starters. They've done really, really well. But winning without Philpot is definitely going to be tough because he's a special player, and he's a guy that they've built one of the players that they've built this offense around.
Joey, we're out of time, but appreciate it and enjoy game day tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Joey Alfieri joining us from the Montreal Alouettes, and we're also following that Austin Mack situation as released by the Atlanta Falcons, his rights still owned.